Right at the wedding, a stranger ran up to the altar and shouted, "She's my wife." The groom turned pale. The guests froze. And I just smiled. No one will ever forget what happened next. It started with an empty chair, right there in the front row at my wedding. A yawning, hollow space where my parents should have been sitting. I remember thinking for half a second that maybe they were late. Maybe they'd walk in last minute. My mother fussing with her pearl earrings. My father clearing his throat the way he did when pretending not to be embarrassed. But they never came. Not to the ceremony. Not to the reception. Not even a quick, awkward drive-by to show face. Just absence. Just nothing. Funny thing is, I didn't even collapse in grief right away. I'd been inoculated against their disappointment years before. Or so I thought. Because deep down, no matter how many walls I built, I still had a stupid, stubborn little voice inside whispering, "Maybe this time they'll show up for you." They didn't. And as I stood there holding my wife's hands, vowing forever, my brain couldn't stop flashing back to all the ways they'd made it clear over the years who really mattered. Spoiler alert, it wasn't me. Shift backward. High school, late spring. There's a photo hanging in my parents' living room. A framed 8x10 masterpiece, positioned right above the fireplace where everyone can see it. My sister Molin, dressed in her first modeling gig outfit, beaming like the goddamn Mona Lisa. Same year I got my computer science degree. They threw her a party for the headshot. They gave me a well done over the salad course. It wasn't subtle. It never was. Molin was a planet, and I was just one of those useless moons, orbiting quietly, grateful not to crash and burn. Growing up, it became a kind of family sport, watching Molin shine while I clung to the sidelines, learning to be invisible. You could look as nice as your sister. If you tried harder, Mom would say while signing me up for another diet class I didn't want. It didn't even hurt after a while. It was just air, the background noise of my life. Shift forward. The engagement. When I told them I was getting married, my parents' faces locked into that brittle politeness you reserve for people who show up at a party uninvited. No cheers, no congratulations. Just this thin, acidic silence, like they'd swallowed something rotten and didn't want to spit it out. Then my mom said it. "Are you sure? You could, lose a little weight before the big day." It was so on brand it was almost funny. I should have seen it coming. The way she clutched her phone all night at the engagement party. The way my dad kept darting glances at her screen. My fiancé caught it too. He overheard them whispering into the phone, voices frantic. Something about this wasn't the plan. Something about Molin. Something about how they never expected me to get married first. 1 month before the wedding, I texted. I called. I emailed. Hell, I even sent a paper invite with tracking because I knew that if they skipped my wedding, they'd pretend it was some miscommunication. The receipts were all there. Read notifications. Delivered confirmations. And yet no RSVP. No polite regret. No last-minute apologies. Just silence. I guess silence is a language too. And my family spoke it fluently when it came to me. Wedding day. It was beautiful. Not perfect. Perfection's a myth, but real. Morning light slanting across the garden. My husband looking at me like I was the only person alive. Laughter spilling from the tables. Friends crying into their champagne glasses during the vows. Real, except for the seats. For empty ones in the front row. Giant black holes sucking at the edges of my perfect day. No dad to walk me down the aisle. No mother dabbing tears from the corner of her eyes. No sister to whisper something snarky and make me roll my eyes at her. The way sisters are supposed to do. Just space. And silence. And the slow realization that I wasn't missing them so much as mourning the fantasy of them. After the honeymoon, I called. I wasn't even angry, not really. Just tired. I wanted closure. Or maybe just confirmation of what I'd already guessed. They picked up after the third try. My mother launched into it immediately. "How dare you not send us a formal invitation? How careless you were. How you hurt us." It was surreal, like arguing with a mirror that kept telling you weren't real. I told her, calmly, because screaming would have given them too much power. That I had proof. Receipts. Digital and physical. She hung up after a stony silence, the sound of her rage lingering in the air like smoke after fire. New memories. At night, lie awake next to my husband, I replayed it all in my head. The missed birthdays, the forgotten report cards, the constant measuring up to a standard I was never allowed to set, and underneath it all, a new, sharper thought I couldn't ignore anymore. They hadn't just skipped my wedding. They had planned to skip it. They had wanted to. Because seeing me happy, truly happy, didn't fit into the perfect family picture they'd spent a lifetime curating with Mullen as their crown jewel. And if that meant pretending I didn't exist, so be it. Present, a New Year's Eve party. The group chat buzzed. Family photos filled my screen. Mullen in a sparkling white dress, grinning as she clinked champagne glasses with her new fiancé. A caption under it all. Can't wait to celebrate the real family wedding next year. That was the moment, not the wedding, not the empty seats, not the phone call. It was that picture. It was a casual way they erased me, smiled about it, toasted their glasses like my existence had been nothing but a glitch in their fairy tale. And for the first time in my life, I stopped trying to be part of their story, because it was time to write my own. And trust me, they weren't ready for the version where I stopped playing nice. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. The first was a stupid Instagram story. Mullen had posted a photo of a wedding dress, a towering, frothy monster of white tulle, with the caption, "The wedding our parents always dreamed of." 2 hearts. Passive-aggressive wasn't even the word anymore. It was full-on aggressive-aggressive. It was surgical. I didn't comment. Didn't even screenshot it for the group chat with my friends, though my husband did. He sent it to me with a simple text. "You don't deserve this." He was right, but what gnawed at me wasn't the dress or the caption. It was the comments. The way my mother had commented, "Finally, dreams do come true," with 5 heart emojis. The way my father had added, "You're our pride." The way Mullen had responded, "Couldn't have done it without you guys." They weren't just moving on without me. They were building a whole new version of our family where I never existed. It felt like watching your own funeral through a keyhole. Time shift. For weeks before Mullen's engagement party. It started small. A missed call here. A group dinner I wasn't invited to there. At first, I brushed it off. Everyone's busy. Everyone's stressed. But it kept happening. Mom's birthday came and went. No invite, no reminder. Aunt Lily's retirement party. Must have gotten lost in the mail. My cousin whispered awkwardly when I asked. Family group chat? Silent toward me, unless I was reacting to their posts. The weirdest part? I wasn't angry. I was free. It was like I had spent my whole life dragging a boulder up a hill for them, and suddenly they had unhooked it themselves. Suddenly it was rolling backward, flattening everything behind me, and for once, it wasn't my problem to fix. Then came the real storm. It hit one Saturday afternoon when my husband and I went to grab coffee. Casual, normal, until I checked my phone and saw 23 missed notifications from various cousins, second cousins, even an old high school friend I barely talked to anymore, all sending the same link. A post, a family announcement, Mullen's engagement party, a high-end brunch at a country club so fancy it had its own zip code. And there it was, clear as crystal, formal dress required, family only, no +1s unless previously approved by Mullen and our parents. Family only, no +1s. And I wasn't on the guest list. At all. Scene. Car ride home. I sat in the passenger seat, my coffee cooling untouched in the cup holder. My husband kept glancing over at me like he expected me to break down. But I didn't. I just stared out the window, watching the world blur past. I don't want to fight for a seat at a table I built anymore. I said finally. He didn't say anything. He just reached over and squeezed my hand so hard it hurt, in a good way. Twist. Unexpected visit. That night, around 9 p.m., there was a knock at our apartment door. It was my mother, holding a container of lasagna, like it was a peace offering, like we were still playing house, and nothing had ever happened. I opened the door, but didn't move aside to let her in. We stood there, 2 feet apart, the hallway light throwing hard shadows across her face. "I thought you might be hungry," she said, her voice too bright, too fake. I stared at the container. "Thanks," I said flatly, not reaching for it. Awkward silence stretched between us like old chewing gum. Finally, she said it. "There's been some confusion about the engagement party." Confusion. Right. Like my name had just accidentally fallen off the guest list, along with my entire existence. "You're not invited," she rushed to add, cheeks flushing red. "It's just that, well, Molin's planning everything herself, and you know how she is." There was again that careful sidestepping, that gaslighting, making it sound like this was my fault for being difficult, for not fitting the aesthetic. "Yeah," I said, "I know how she is." I closed the door slowly in her face, not slamming it, just letting it click shut like the end of a chapter. Sitting on the couch with my husband hours later, I finally asked a question that had been clawing at the back of my mind since the wedding. "Do you think they ever loved me?" He didn't answer right away. He didn't sugarcoat it either. "I think they love what they wanted you to be," he said. "Not who you are." That hurt more than I expected, but it was the kind of hurt that set you free. And maybe, for the first time in my life, I was ready to stop bleeding for people who called it love. I wasn't just walking away anymore. I was walking through the fire. And the next time they tried to rewrite the story, I was going to be the one holding the pen. If you've never been erased in real time by your own family, let me tell you, it doesn't happen with screaming or fists. It happens quietly, through 100 small choices that say, "You are replaceable." Molin's engagement party went off without a hitch. I know because I watched it happen in real time on Instagram stories I wasn't supposed to see, secondhand posts from friends of friends, tagged by mistake. There was my mother, fussing over Molin's train like a lady in waiting. There was my father, giving a teary toast about finally seeing our dreams realized. And there was Molin, standing there like the crown princess she'd always been, soaking applause that should have at least included me. My stomach twisted with something uglier than sadness. Not grief, contempt, because for the first time in my life, I realized they didn't just prefer Molin. They needed her to win, and they needed me to lose. Seen a week later. The letter. It arrived like some final middle finger from the universe. A pale pink envelope in the mailbox, addressed in my mother's perfect handwriting. Inside, a formal invitation to Molin's bridal shower. No apology for the engagement party. No call. No note. Just a card that said, "Please RSVP by next week," and a gift registry link featuring things like hand-cut champagne flutes and $600 crystal vases. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It bubbled out of me sharp and bitter and uncontrollable. "Are you okay?" my husband asked from the kitchen. I held up the card. Apparently, I'm family again. Just in time to buy them an expensive wine decanter. Flashback, childhood memory. 3rd grade, science fair day. I remember standing by my project, a hand-built model of the solar system. So proud, I thought my chest might burst. Molin won, obviously. Her volcano actually erupted, with her teacher's suspiciously heavy help. She got the blue ribbon. I got a pat on the head and a photo of me standing next to her, always next to her. Never seen on my own. Seen therapy. Yeah, I caved. Found myself sitting across from a therapist named Dr. Holly, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who looked like she could fix a transmission and bake you a pie without changing her expression once. She listened as I dumped everything out. The wedding, the silence, the pink envelope like a loaded gun in my mailbox. When I was done, she leaned back and said, "You keep looking for evidence that you're not crazy." I blinked. "Yeah, because it feels crazy." "It's not," she said. "What you're experiencing is betrayal. Deep betrayal. You're grieving a family that doesn't exist the way you hoped it did. That wrecked me harder than I expected. Not because it was cruel, because it was true." New twist, the conversation. 2 weeks later, the bomb finally dropped. I wasn't even trying to cause drama. I was at a baby shower for one of my cousins, a small thing at a local cafe. I hadn't seen most of them in months. And then, Without warning, Aunt Carol dropped it into conversation like tossing a lit match into a gasoline puddle. So Mullen told me they're buying her and her fiancé a house. I froze. What? Oh, you didn't know? She said, blinking fake innocent. Your parents are gifting them a down payment. They're just so proud of her. I sat there, blinking, trying to make sense of the words. A house. They were buying Mullen a house. When I got married, they wouldn't even buy me a bouquet. Seeing the confrontation. I didn't plan it. One minute I was driving home, gripping the wheel so hard my fingers went white, and the next I was pulling into my parents' driveway like a storm. I didn't even ring the bell. Just walked in. My mother was sitting at the kitchen island, scrolling her phone. She looked up, startled. Rebecca, you should call first. Are you buying Mullen a house? She froze. My father came around the corner, coffee mug in hand, like he had walked into the wrong TV show. We're helping her get established, he said finally, voice defensive. I laughed sharp, ugly. You didn't even help me pick out napkins for my wedding. That was different, my mother said. Her face twisted, like she was trying to swallow a mouthful of needles. How? I demanded. No answer. Just silence. That same choking, smothering silence they always use when they wanted me to be too embarrassed to keep pushing. But not this time. You know what? I said, stepping back. I'm done. Rebecca, my father started, but I cut him off. You didn't lose me, I said. You threw me away. I walked out without another word, without looking back. Because there's a difference between being pushed out and walking away with your head held high. And from that moment on, I wasn't just a forgotten daughter anymore. I was a storm they didn't see coming. I didn't plan to go to Mullen's wedding. Seriously, I told myself over and over again, you don't owe them anything. I wasn't going to waste another second of my life chasing people who had made it crystal clear they didn't want me. But then something changed. It was 2 days before the wedding when a cousin, one of the few who still spoke to me, sent a screenshot. It was a post from Mullen's private Snapchat story. I wasn't supposed to see it. The caption read, "Can't wait to finally show the world what a real bride looks like, faced with tears of joy sparkles. Hashtag, no second choices. Hashtag, best family ever." There was my mom and dad, arms around Mullen, grinning like they just won the lottery. And that was it. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to finish the story they started. Scene, the wedding day. I didn't wear black, even though it would have been poetic. I wore a simple navy dress. No drama. No look at me vibes. I just walked into the venue like I belonged there, because once upon a time I would have. No one noticed at first. I moved to the crowd like a ghost, blending in with a sea of overpriced suits and sparkling jewelry. Everyone laughing, drinking, oblivious, until I reached the gift table. I set down my gift, wrapped in gold paper, ribbon tied perfectly. Inside, a framed copy of the wedding invitation from my wedding, the one they never received, the one they swore didn't exist. Receipt and delivery confirmation stapled right on top. Merry freaking Christmas. Scene, the ceremony. They did it big. Outdoor venue. String quartet. Floral arches that looked like they cost more than my first car. I stood in the back, hidden by the crowd. I didn't plan to say anything. But then the officiant said the words. If anyone objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace. The crowd laughed lightly, as if it were a joke. I didn't. I stepped forward. Not loud, not screaming, just loud enough. I don't object to their marriage, I said, voice steady as a bullet. The music cut off mid-note. Every head turned. I just thought you all should know. You're not celebrating a wedding. A pause, thick and electric. You're celebrating a cover-up. Mullen's face drained of color. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a dying fish. I pulled the envelope from my purse, the one with all the receipts, the RSVPs they ignored, the texts they ghosted, the fake outrage about an invitation they absolutely received. I dropped it at their feet like a bomb. No screaming, no tears, just the truth. It exploded louder than any tantrum ever could have. Flashback, 2 weeks ago. I had gathered everything. Emails, texts, delivery confirmations, even statements from friends who got their invites at the same time my parents supposedly didn't. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was armed. Scene aftermath. The officiant awkwardly cleared his throat. Guests started whispering, some openly filming with their phones. Mullen stepped down from the altar, grabbing my mother's arm like she was about to collapse. My father looked like he wanted to evaporate. I turned to leave, but not before locking eyes with my sister one last time. And for the first time in my life, I saw it. Fear, not anger, not mockery, not smug superiority. Real gut-punch fear, because she realized something too late. I wasn't the broken, second-best daughter anymore. I was the wildfire they had spent decades trying to contain. And now, they were standing in the middle of it, gasoline in their hands. Scene, the parking lot. My husband was waiting by the car. When he saw me coming, he just smiled, not proud, not smug, just relieved. Done, he asked. I nodded. Finally. Some families break apart slowly. Over years. Mine? It shattered all at once. And as the wreckage settled behind me, I realized something. Sometimes you don't just survive being the outsider. Sometimes you burn the whole damn castle down and build your own kingdom from the ashes. After the wedding, there was silence. No angry phone calls. No teary apologies. No dramatic messages begging me to explain. Just a dead, heavy silence, like someone had pulled the plug on our entire bloodline. And for once, I didn't rush to fill it. I let it echo. Scene a week later. I heard through the grapevine that Mullen's wedding had stumbled forward after I left. Smiles pasted back on the faces. The ceremony finished. The party limping along on shattered nerves and fake champagne toasts. But no one was fooled. By the end of the night, half the guests had ghosted early. Family group chats exploded with speculation. The perfect image they had spent decades polishing was cracked beyond repair. They couldn't unring that bell. They couldn't pretend anymore. And deep down, they knew it. Scene a quiet night. One night. About a week later, I sat on the back porch of our apartment with my husband. The summer air was heavy and buzzing with late cicadas. The city glowed faintly in the distance. I should feel worse, I said finally. He didn't say anything. I stared up at the stars, or at least the few you could still see between the city haze, and realized something. I didn't miss them. I missed the idea of them. The fantasy I clung to for years, that if I just worked harder, tried more, bent myself a little further, eventually they'd love me the way they loved her. But love that has to be earned isn't love. It's leverage. And I was done carrying it. Flashback, childhood. I remember being 8 years old, trying to teach myself how to play piano, because Mullen had been gifted a brand new grand piano and private lessons. I remembered practicing alone for hours, fingertips raw, hoping that if I played well enough, someone would notice. They never did. I wasn't their masterpiece. I was the background noise they learned to ignore. Scene 2 months later. A package arrived. No return address. But I knew the handwriting immediately. My mother's shaky but still neat. Inside was a photo album. No note. No apology. Just pictures. Pictures of me. Baby photos. Grade school snapshots. Graduation day. Standing awkwardly behind Mullen's shining spotlight. A weird, clumsy peace offering. Too little, too late. I thought about tossing it. I thought about lighting it on fire. But in the end, I put it on the top shelf of my closet. Not out of forgiveness, not out of bitterness. Just closure. Proof that I existed. Proof that I mattered. Even if only to myself. Scene the real ending. We bought a house 6 months later. Not a mansion. Not some fairy tale Pinterest home. Just a small, sunlit place with creaky floors and a backyard big enough for a dog someday. A place that felt like it belonged to us. The first night we moved in, my husband carried me over the threshold like a cheesy rom-com scene. We collapsed on the bare floor, laughing breathlessly. "Welcome home," he whispered. And for the first time, home didn't mean chasing anyone's approval. It meant peace. It meant belonging. It meant choosing each other. No permission needed. No audience required. Some people spend their whole lives trying to fit inside someone else's picture frame. I was done with that. I wasn't a missing piece in their perfect puzzle. I was my own whole story, and it was just beginning.